America.
This is Charles Gibson.
And Joan London. Tomorrow morning, we'll take you backstage at the Doobie Brothers reunion concert.
And all week, Linda Ellerby relives the turbulent 1967 summer, Vietnam, the Beatles, and Haight-Ashbury on Good Morning America.
Tuesday at 9, 8 Central. They are all American kids, high school athletes, best buddies. But for one, the seduction of drugs leads from a fast high into the longest downer of his life. Ed Asner and James Wilder star in Cracked Up, an ABC theater presentation. Watch The Weekend Report tonight on most of these ABC stations.
200 years ago, our founding fathers met to draft the Constitution. Now find out what really happened.
There was a tremendous amount of disagreement.
Richard THRELKELD takes you back to meet the men who shaped America. Monday on ABC's World News Tonight with Peter Jennings.
Coming up next here on Eyewitness News Tonight.
2 separate shootings leave 3 Houston teenagers wounded.
A Houston area sailor who survived last week's attack of a U.S. frigate in the Persian Gulf is lobbying to bring the remaining crew members home.
I'm Elma Barrera in Saragosa, where tornado victims are trying to get their lives together, and I'll have a live report.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Melanie Lawson.
And I'm Jim Rosenfield. We'll have those stories and others coming up next here on Eyewitness News Tonight.
You're watching Channel 13, KTRK-TV Houston, #1 in Texas. Eyewitness News with Melanie Lawson and Jim Rosenfield. Tim Melton has sports and Ed Brandon's 7-day forecast. Now, Channel 13, Eyewitness News Tonight.
Good evening, everyone. Grief-stricken residents in Saragosa tonight are preparing to bury the victims of Friday's killer tornado there.
Those funerals will dominate the start of the new week, as will salvage operations. Elma Barrera has spent the weekend in the West Texas community. She joins us now live with the latest. Elma?
There has been no decision yet on state and federal emergency relief, although the Red Cross has set up a center a few miles from here. Eyewitness News reporter Christy Myers says people have already started cleaning up, although it's going to be a long time before they finish.
The whole box? I mean,
yeah, you might as well.
They are cleaning up what's left of the home of an 86-year-old friend. There isn't a lot they can save.
Yeah, it's got a little music in.
What's really amazing is this cedar chest is full of brand new dishes, and there's not one busted.
The capriciousness of the tornado was obvious. While the elderly lady who lived here survived, the man who lived next door did not. Just as people cleaning up in Saragosa were getting tired, a busload of students and faculty from the Seventh-day Adventist High School in Albuquerque came into town to help. In other parts of town, many people were still in shock, just walking through the rubble, not knowing where to begin. May Martinez has 2 aunts who live here. They're both in their 80s.
And there's no way we could bring them back. I think that if they were to come back and see this, I think that it would just really affect their heart.
One family placed a flag where their home and business stood. It was a sign of hope, they said, and a plea for people in other parts of the state to help.
Might be a little speck of dirt in anybody else's map, but we're here. We were here. We don't have anything left. And if we believe in them, they ought to believe in us enough to help us.
They were all good people, every one of them good people, good, hard-working people. And I just hate to see anything like this because I know they have no money whatsoever, no money. And everything they have is gone.
The tornado killed 29 people. Some fear it may also have killed the town. In the deaths of some of the children, Saragosa lost a part of its future. But the people who know the residents here say the town will survive, for the tornado can't kill the spirit of these poor but proud people. And they say Saragosa will not disappear from the map of Texas. Christy Myers, Eyewitness News, Saragosa, Texas.
The mourning is not over. Some 500 people attended a special mass this afternoon to honor those who lost their lives. Under a hot sun, they stood or sat and prayed and cried and remembered. Descriptions in a case like this are useless. Their faces tell the story. Bishop Peña said he knew the non-believers would question their faith, but he knew God would not abandon them. He told them it was okay to be afraid. Throughout it all, that silent statue of Jesus, which was found standing in a totally collapsed church, dominated the altar. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. The mariachi band belted out sorrowful songs as tornado victims, relatives, and friends watched and listened and wondered where their shattered lives were going. The worst part of this tragedy has yet to come. People here must bury their dead. Tomorrow night, the wake involving all 29 families. Tuesday, the funeral. Back to you, Jim and Melanie.
Elma, are many of these people still hospitalized who were hurt, or are they now getting out of the hospital and coming back into the town to see what's left?
Most of them are out, except, of course, those that were in critical or serious condition. All the rest we've seen here among what you see right now.
Okay, Elma, thank you very much.
We'll have more on that story tomorrow as we have other news crews on the scene.
And back here at home, a 17-year-old Houston boy is clinging to life tonight at Ben Top Hospital. The youth, whose name is not yet being released, is listed in critical condition with a gunshot wound to the head. Police say he was apparently shot during an argument with his brother at their home in the 5700 block of Lyndhurst. Meanwhile, a second teenager also is recovering from gunshot wounds at Ben Top. Police say 13-year-old Sidney Tenon was shot in the abdomen while he and 3 other teens played with a .38 caliber pistol in a Fort Bend County home. Tenon is listed in satisfactory condition tonight. A second youngster, 14-year-old Maurice Bell, was grazed by the same bullet that hit Tenon. He was also hospitalized, then later released. No charges will be filed.
It was 1 week ago tonight that an Iraqi jet fired on an American missile frigate in the Persian Gulf. 37 seamen died in that surprise attack. Today, Eyewitness News spoke to one of the surviving crew members of the USS Stark by telephone from Bahrain. Roy Hobbs reports that the seaman, who is from the Houston area, says the crew wants to come home now.
23-year-old Nick Norfleet is a petty officer, 3rd class on the USS Stark, and during a telephone interview with Eyewitness News Sunday morning, Norfleet described what he did after the first Iraqi missile hit his ship.
And they passed the word saying that all hands braced for shock. The second missile was incoming. So I just held on to the life rails, or the handrails on the ladder, and just closed my eyes and prayed to God that I wasn't going to get hit.
Norfleet says the ship's defense systems were 100% operational. So the question remains, why didn't the Stark fire on the Iraqi jet?
Iraq is supposed to be our allies. If I walked up to a friend of mine and punched him, and asked him why did he not defend himself, then he's just going to get up and say, well, I thought you were my friend. This is the same thing.
Nick Norfleet's father, Buck, says it's ironic that this Memorial Day weekend, when the country is recognizing Vietnam veterans, the government isn't recognizing the need of the survivors of the USS Stark to come home and take care of the mental anguish they've suffered as a result of the missile attack.
Something's got to be done to get these boys away from this environment. This environment is just, it's reliving everything.
In published reports Sunday, officials of the Iranian government stated that U.S. ships are not safe in the Persian Gulf, and Petty Officer Norfleet agreed.
The only thing I can say to any other ship that comes over here is just be careful. Do not trust anybody.
Roy Hobbs, Eyewitness News in Pecan Grove.
Meanwhile, Nick Norfleet's mother, Jean Brown, contacted Eyewitness News tonight upon her return from a memorial service in Florida. Tomorrow morning on Eyewitness News at 7, we'll get a chance to talk with her about efforts to bring home the men aboard the USS Stark. Americans in Houston and across the nation this Memorial Weekend are remembering the war heroes of past battles with a variety of festivities. At a pregame ceremony at the Astrodome today, 8 Medal of Honor recipients from Texas who fought in World War II and in Vietnam were saluted with a color guard demonstration. In Washington, scores of people gathered at the Wall, a memorial to those who died in the controversial conflict. Volunteers collected rubbings of names to send to those unable to attend. And in Los Angeles, the rock group the Doobie Brothers reunited last night to raise some $350,000 for Vietnam vets. Well, ex-presidential hopeful Gary Hart is now the spotlight of a national tabloid expose.
And the family of a missing Galveston area woman has not given up hope for her return. Those stories in just a moment. Gary Hart, who withdrew from the presidential race because of an unexplained relationship with a Miami model, is back in the news tonight.
Pictures of Hart and Donna Rice have now been published in a national tabloid. The National Enquirer has published pictures of the couple while on a trip to Bimini aboard the luxury yacht Monkey Business. The Enquirer claims that Rice told a friend that Hart promised to divorce his wife and marry her when he was elected president.
Hermione Gingold, the deep-voiced English actress, died in New York City today at the age of 89. The actress's American credits ranged from the films Gigi and The Music Man to A Little Night Music on Broadway. In the 50s, she made several television appearances, including both the Jack Paar and Ed Sullivan shows. Miss Gingold had been hospitalized since April 30th, but the cause of her death has not yet been released.
And back here in the Houston area, it's been a year since a 20-year-old woman was abducted near Galveston. While police have had many leads, none so far has panned out. But as Leslie Brinkley reports, the family of Shelley Sykes is not giving up hope.
20-year-old Shelley Sykes was abducted from her car as she returned from her waitressing job in Galveston last Memorial Day weekend. She was forced off the feeder road just past the causeway, and her abductor smashed out the driver's window. Footprints indicated Shelley was forced into his truck and never seen again. Rewards and a composite drawing brought in many clues.
The FBI and the Galveston County Sheriff's Department have identified over 130 suspects in this case and have conducted over 1,000 interviews during the course of their investigation. Based on witness information, over 2,400 suspect vehicles across the state have been located and then systematically eliminated. Thus, despite all the leads, this bizarre abduction case remains 1 year later unsolved.
But the investigation is by no means over. Shelley's family hopes this Memorial Day will bring new clues to the attention of the Sheriff's Department or Crime Stoppers.
What keeps you going?
Just knowing that she's a fighter and that, you know, if there's any possible way that she can get away, that she will.
And I want this to stay alive in everybody's minds until we have Shelley back.
Leslie Brinkley, Eyewitness News in Texas City.
And if you have any information, you can call the number that was published there on the screen. Well, moving to sports, the Indy 500 has broken another record. The granddaddy of speed racing now has its oldest winner ever.
Speaking of broken records, the Astros' troubles keep on going too. Tim has all the sports next.
George,
well, that's okay, but I just...
on the first story, it's 104 all-time list is the out cue. And she doesn't need the Unser Super that's on there.
Oh, did she?
All-time
well,
list.
I must have been reading the tabloid.
We were waiting for a soundbite we never got.
Robbie, I hope you didn't take my comment about too hot to shot. 2 shots too hard. Too hard.
Did you take that to Gary Hart? I didn't hear that.
It is,
This is Jim on a 2-shot.
She and Vanna White dress alike.
That's what I do a lot. Well, it's time now for sports and Tim Melton. And just in case you're feeling a little old, like you're over the hill, wait till you hear about the Indy 500.
Yeah, age is kind of meaningless, at least up to a certain point when they get to Indianapolis. You know, when Al Unser Sr. arrived at Indianapolis earlier this month, nobody had a car for him to drive, even though he had 3 Indy 500 victories under his belt. But when Danny Ungaius was sidelined by injury, the Penske racing team went looking for a replacement and found Al. Today, Unser Sr. won his 4th Indy 500.
The race proved to be relatively safe. Jose Lagarza gave everybody reason to worry, however, when he spun in turn 1 of the opening lap and took Pancho Carter with him. But after that, the problems were mostly mechanical. Defending champion Bobby Rahal didn't last 60 laps because of ignition problems. A.J. Foyt ran well considering he had been unable to test his rebuilt car, but he had to park it after 123 laps. Former champion Tom Sneva hit the wall on lap 152, his 3rd wall banger of the month. And Danny Sullivan was running 3rd for a while, but oil pressure problems ended his day on lap 162. The guy running the best was the man on the pole. Mario Andretti led 172 of the first 177 laps when the fuel system went, and so did Mario. That handed the lead to Roberto Guerrero with just 23 laps left. But when Roberto pitted 4 laps later, his car stalled, and the lead was assumed by Unser with just 18 laps to go. Unser Sr. had just been driving to finish, and when only 11 cars were able to do that, he was in front. His 4th Indy 500 victory, tying him with Foyt atop the all-time list.
So at age 47, he'll be 48 on Friday. Al Unser Sr., the oldest winner of the Indy 500. Guerrero did finish second. Fabrizio Barbaza was third. He is a rookie from Italy. Al Unser Jr., Al's son, was in 4th place, and Gary Bettenhausen 5th. Now on lap 130, the nose cone came off of Guerrero's car. That's because it was struck by a tire from the car of Tony Bettenhausen. Tragically, the tire bounced 30 feet high into the grandstand, striking and killing a 41-year-old man, Lyle Kurtenbach of Wisconsin, the first spectator fatality at Indy since 1960. NASCAR circuit, Charlotte, North Carolina today for the Coca-Cola 600, and just as it was a big day for the Unser family, pretty good for the Pettys at Charlotte. In this case, son Kyle won and dad Richard finished 4th, just the opposite of the Unser finish at Indy. NBA Eastern Conference Finals headed back to Boston, tied at 2 games apiece. Detroit racked the Celtics by 18 yesterday and knocked them up by 26 points today. Celtics are basically going with just 6 players, and the wear and tear may be starting to show. Adrian Dantley scored 32, Bill Laimbeer 20 as the Pistons again took the game inside. An 11-2 run early in the third quarter opened a 16-point bulge, which the Celtics were never able to overcome. 145-119 in Game 5 Tuesday in Boston. Astros lost again today. Unfortunately, there's nothing new about that. They've lost 8 of their last 9, but normally they can always count on Mike Scott to stop the bleeding. Even Mike couldn't find a Band-Aid today. He only lasted an inning and a third. He walked 6 Cardinals. Alan Ashby was guilty of 2 passed balls, and with the bases loaded in the second, it was already 3-0 St. Louis. If things weren't bad enough, Jack Clark then ripped Scott's 3-2 pitch into the seats and left. Everybody thought it was foul, with the exception of third base umpire Charlie Williams, who signaled home run, grand slam. Well, Hal Lanier knew his club wasn't getting any breaks, but this was ridiculous.
It's just a terrible call. There's no reason to miss a call like that. He's in perfect position to see the ball. He's got the best position in the house, really, except a guy who probably caught the ball, probably about 10 feet foul.
The camera didn't follow the ball as it passed by the foul pole, so the replay is inconclusive. But when Clark was asked what he saw,
foul ball?
Yeah, he said foul ball. Didn't matter. Damage was done. Cards win 8-2 with Pittsburgh coming to town tomorrow. On the scoreboard, Dodgers beat a National League East team 8-6. San Francisco moves 5.5 in front of the Astros, 6-3 over Philadelphia. Pittsburgh has won 5 in a row, and Cincinnati loses again. In the 12th, Andre Dawson singles home Bobby Dernier. Cubs over the Braves 3-2, and Montreal defeated San Diego 2-1. American League White Sox beat the Red Sox again. Detroit 7-2 over Minnesota. Cleveland by 2 over Milwaukee. Kansas City 5-2 winners over the Rangers. In 10, the Yankees knock off California. Baltimore 4, Oakland 3, and in the 8th, Seattle is leading Toronto 5-2. The Texas Longhorns are headed for a record 25th College Baseball World Series. After today's 13-4 rout of Houston, Cougs led 3-1 after 4, but Texas batted around in the 6th and the 8th, scoring 10 runs in the 2 at-bats. Scott Coolbaugh led the way with a 2-run homer. The Horns will face Arkansas in a first-round game Saturday in Omaha, and that's because Arkansas knocked off Clemson today to win its regional. Texas A&M is trailing Oklahoma State in another regional 4-1 in the 5th. Should the Aggies lose, they would play Oklahoma State again tomorrow to see who would go to the College Baseball World Series. Stanley Cup Finals, Edmonton now leads Philadelphia 3-1. The Oilers a 4-1 winner tonight. Wayne Gretzky with 3 points in that one. LPGA Championship in golf goes to Jane Geddes. She has won her 3rd tournament of the year, and Dave Barr, 23 under par, wins the Atlanta Classic. And AJ today finished 19th. You expected this might be a good race for him. He qualified inside of row 2, but then he had the accident on Thursday, had to put the car back together, and never got a chance to test it, and that hurt him today.
Kind of throws off your momentum.
Yes, it does.
But that's too bad about Boston. Gosh, losing.
I know, I can see it in your eyes.
Yes, gee, that's what a shame, those guys.
Very sincere. Well, the northern part of our area is getting the brunt of some heavy thunderstorms tonight.
And Ed Brandon's up next with that and the 7-day forecast. Stay with us.
All is not quiet on the northern front?
No, there is some thunderstorm activity north of us, Jim, and it looks like it's dying out. Let's start first by telling you that this is the 7-day forecast presented by Texas Commerce Banks. Galveston radar scanning on the close range, picking up thunderstorms north and northwest of Huntsville. These are moving in a northerly direction. They moved through Tomball and Conroe earlier in the evening. There was also some heavy thunderstorm activity in Bryan and College Station. College Station had pea-sized hail during the early evening hours and some very heavy rains. Meanwhile, just southeast of College Station in Deanville, they had golf ball size hail, 60 to 70 mile an hour wind gusts, and some minor property damage up there. Texas radar indicates that most of the thunderstorm activity is in the Texas Panhandle. This is the area that we're looking at. As we said, it is moving to the north and decreasing fairly rapidly. A severe thunderstorm watch is in effect until midnight for that part of the Texas Panhandle in the extreme western portion of Oklahoma. That severe thunderstorm watch again until midnight. It's easy to tell why. The same old weather pattern. Southeasterly winds bringing moisture up from the Gulf of Mexico. Afternoon heating triggers the thunderstorms. As the cooling begins in the evenings, thunderstorms start dying down. Temperatures at 9 o'clock generally in the 60s and 70s in Texas. However, it's 81 degrees at Laredo and 80 out in El Paso. Highs in the state today range from, 76 in Amarillo and 77 in Midland to 83 at Galveston, 87 at Corpus Christi, 89 in Brownsville. It was 95 degrees in Kingsville for the hot spot today. In Houston, our low temperature this morning was 69 degrees, high this afternoon 86. No rainfall officially at Intercontinental Airport through 4 o'clock this afternoon. At 10 o'clock, 78 at Intercontinental, 79 here at KTRK, 76 degrees at Hobby. Barometer steady, wind south at 8, and the relative humidity is 74%. We'll start the 7-day forecast with a look at tomorrow's map. Expect to see some clouds and showers over the southeastern part of Texas. There'll be a good chance of thunderstorms along this warm front, along and in advance of it. That's warm air moving up toward the Great Lakes. Low pressure helping to bring hot air to trigger those thunderstorms. On Tuesday, maybe a 20 to 30% chance of thunderstorms in our area. A trough of low pressure will drop from a center of low pressure in the southeastern part of Montana. Generally sunny skies in the Midwest. That should come to an end on Wednesday as that trough turns into a Pacific frontal system, bringing cooler and drier air, mainly drier, not significantly cooler, into the Midwestern part of the country. That makes the most likely area for heavy thunderstorms along the Red River. Partly sunny here with a chance of thunderstorms every day this week. On Thursday, we expect to see the possibility of thunderstorms heaviest in the northern part of the state. We should see partly sunny skies, again mainly clouds in the morning, late afternoon and evening thunderstorms possible. On Friday, frontal system should begin to move in our direction. Don't expect it to bring any cool weather, but it could bring a brief relief by early next week. On Saturday, we expect to see that front approaching our area. That, unfortunately, should increase the chances of rain for the weekend, and the Sunday map disappeared. Pretend you're looking at a map of next Sunday. It would show that frontal system getting closer to the Houston area and continuing a good chance of rain for next weekend. Our sunrise tomorrow morning in Houston, 6:24, set at 8:13. 1 week from today, the sun will rise at 6:22, set at 8:17. And the next 3 days in Houston, partly sunny skies, lows near 70, highs near 90, 30% chance of rain tonight, 20% tomorrow, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Another week just like the last one. Jim and Melanie will be back.
Finally tonight, it's loud, it's dirty, and it's competitive.
And we're not talking about winter football or soccer, but something a bit more unusual. These monstrous machines are participating in something known as tractor pulling and mud racing. Quite exciting, isn't it? 20,000 yards of mud combined with raw horsepower revs up even those not mechanically inclined. As mud flies through the air, the audience flares up with excitement, hoping that the truck won't sink in 4-foot-deep mud. Sometimes you see that at the Astrodome. It's
That's
true.
right. And you wouldn't have to worry about anybody cutting in front of you. We'll see you again next weekend, Saturday at 6.
Good night, everybody.